Alright, so today we'll be talking about Nova and why I think he is probably the most underrated character in the game, like, to this day. He is such a good champion. He's so useful in, like, pretty much every piece of content. In, like, Alliance War, he's a good defender. In Battlegrounds, he's a good attacker and defender. He's a very good general clearer as well. He just has, like, a lot of uses in the game, and I feel like he's just a very valuable character overall. So yeah, today I just want to talk about Nova and just, like, why I am such a big fan of this character, why I think he's a very good rank up, and just, like, things like that, man. But yeah, I took this fight, I think, like, 2 days ago on stream, and it went pretty well. This can be like much faster overall, I feel like, because she was just stalling for the majority of the matchup, but his damage output is just so good, man. It is very, very powerful. I won't sugarcoat it though, he does want high sig because he scales very good with his signature ability, and it is the majority of his damage output because he is a medium attack character. As fun as his SP2 looks, it is not the majority of his damage. The majority of his damage is his medium attacks. But yeah, that was a quick demonstration of Noah in Battlegrounds, and now let's go over some more of his utility, because he has like a lot of very good utility that's very underutilized, and one of them is just so good, and like people do not realize how good it is. But first, let's start with his armor control. This is just Continuous Thorns and turtling, so he'll get an armor up if we don't hit him, but even if he doesn't get an armor up, we can just control it with this armor break. So how do you get the armor break? You have to just keep cycling your Nova charges, and every time you consume a Nova charge, you'll inflict an armor break debuff that lasts a very long time and is pretty potent overall. But keep in mind this is only for tech characters, which is a bit unfortunate, but like, to be fair, most armor up characters are in the tech class, so it makes sense to like limit it to that. But yeah, overall, it's just a very nice utility piece, and it's not the biggest deal, but it's still a pretty nice thing to have. We'll go over some more important utility later on in the video, but I just want to cover this first because it's pretty nice. But honestly, I feel like act content like this, Nova is pretty good for, but his specialty is Battlegrounds, because he's like a burst character, because the majority of his damage is his medium attacks, right? And those have like no ramp up to them. You can just start doing great damage immediately with Nova. So I feel like he is made for those shorter matchups, but he's taking these long matchups pretty fine anyways. So yeah, just a very like versatile character, a very all-around champion, I feel like, and he will just always be very good in my eyes. I feel like he's definitely not a top cosmic character, but he's definitely like above average overall, I feel like. But I want to show you something that's very important. So what happens if you get the armor on Mysterio, right? It's Continuous Thorns, we should be taking bleed damage, right? But we're not taking any. Why is that? It's because Nova's medium attacks are non-contact, and that is the most important piece of utility that he has. This utility piece is absolutely insane. Like, it is utterly insane. And to prove how good this ability is, I'll be taking this ManThing, and I will not take a single poison throughout the entire fight, because to get poisoned, you have to make contact with ManThing, right? And Nova's medium attacks are non-contact, so you will never make contact with ManThing, and you will never get nullified, which you won't get poisoned by that either. So overall, this is just like a very good fight for Nova. There I take a little bit of a hit, but besides that, it's fine. And yeah, this is just a great example of why his ability to make non-contact hits is so powerful, because you can take some of the most crazy fights out there, right? Like, you can take ManThing, you can take Immortal Abomination, you can take so many fights with this one mechanic, and it's just insane. It takes a bit of practice to like master just doing only medium attacks and like not blocking at all, but his unblockable is very useful for that mechanic, and it's very useful for this like rotation. And of course these fights will be pretty slow, right? Because ManThing, you know, he has class disadvantage and he cannot take critical damage. But then again, in like a battleground situation where the perfect matchup isn't really a thing, you can make do with Nova in those like scenarios, and that's very important, right? Like, I took a Rintra with Nova as well. Rintra is pretty much impossible with like 99% of the cosmic class, but with Nova he can take it just fine. Like, he's so good for those matchups that you don't think he's good for, and that's why I think Nova is such a good champion. I feel like he's super underrated overall. Like, this champion is so much better than most people think, and I think it's time to like realize. But yeah, he took that ManThing with a full yellow bar finish. It is just absolutely insane. Another thing that's pretty underrated about Nova is his True Strike. So in his SP1, he has a pretty like potent True Strike. It lasts a pretty long time, and it lets him just be a very solid evade counter and auto block counter. Like, I've used him for Overseer a ton because of his True Strike, and it's just a very nice mechanic because he also gets an Energize from it, so you can just cycle your SP1 pretty frequently, and you'll pretty much have like full uptime on the True Strike. So it's a pretty nice time overall, and it is just a very nice mechanic that Nova has. You know, just adding on to his utility kit, that's already pretty strong in my opinion, right? Because like, the non-contact is just insane. The auto block failsafe is pretty good as well. The True Strike is amazing. The arm break is good as well. and the damage output is just phenomenal, and especially in like battleground scenarios, it is just a very, very good time overall. But yeah, like he's taking this Dr. Octopus very, very well. The True Strike has been on like the whole fight pretty much, and it is probably gonna stay that way for the rest of the fight. Yeah, so Nova is just a very strong True Strike character, as well as just being a very strong character in general in my opinion. But the thing is, you really want max sig so you can increase the duration of his buffs, because Unawakened, the True Strike is a very like reduced duration, so you can't really get the full uptime on it, I feel like. So yeah, Nova is a pretty like signature line character, which is kind of unfortunate, but honestly I feel like he's worth the investment. Like this guy has been so good on my account. Like he honestly has been one of my most used rank 4s ever, just because of how fast he is, how reliable he is. He's good in both offense and defense. He's just a very good rank up in my opinion, and I would really suggest that you rank him up and like invest signature stones into him. Like I know I like the niche characters, so like I love Super Scroll, I love Icarus, but I feel like Nova is more than niche. I feel like he's just a very strong character overall, and it comes down to just being a very solid dual threat, right? Because Battlegrounds is, the main thing of the game right now, and he is just performing so well there, and he's going to continue to do that for a very long time, I feel like. His damage output is great, it has like almost no ramp up, and he's just a very strong defender as well. And his utility is so underrated, man. Like his non-contact attacks is just insane. It is so good, and I can like prove it more and more as like I continue making videos on this guy. He's just a very solid character. I will keep saying this because I think it is just completely true. And yeah, the Spider-Man's going down pretty nicely. The True Strike has been on the whole entire fight pretty much, and it's just a pretty fun time overall, I feel like. But yeah, Nova, you gotta stop sleeping on him if you are. He's just so good. And that'll be it for this video. This is just like a quick introduction video to Nova, because I feel like he is very worthy of one. And I plan to make more videos on Nova because I feel like he's just a very strong character. His utility is amazing, his damage output is phenomenal as well, and he's just a very solid champion overall. So yeah, let me know your thoughts on Nova, and that's about it for me.